We have Smoker. Now, you could say he probably had a little fall from grace or whatever, defining how strong you felt the deck was or whatever. But
he was Kyler Curry before Kyler Curry.
It was Kyler Curry before. Kyler Curry was just the better one. His problem is that you don't necessarily have convenient access to his ability. The conditions, right? Let's continue comparing him to Kyler Curry. All you have to do is down X1 for Kyler Curry. That's it. And you get the added addition of being able to look at the top card of either player's life and then decide whether you want to put it top. The point is, that's just like more icing on the cake, right? That's how the saying goes. When it comes to Smoker, you have to get the person to be at zero, or at least a zero cost has to exist on the board. So now you're in a position where it's like, how accessible is my leader ability? You're probably going to have games where you don't even get to use this leader ability, to be honest. And then at that point, what are you really doing? You're just using his leader ability to do -1, so you can just have consistent 6K swings? I don't know. Is -1 effective enough for a mono black leader? Looking like no. For one character, -1, it looks like it's not effective enough. And I do feel like originally they wanted Navy cards to use their stage, so that way you can have another access to consistent cost reduction. But you already know, if the deck needs a stage, it's probably not worth playing. Poor Smoker would punish you for playing a search card. But for some reason, as much low drops as he played in this meta, it's just not enough one drops, I guess. I mean, Brandon is a 2, so guess what? You have to go out of your way to get him to 0, sadly. Because not only you have to do your leader ability plus something else, and that's just a 2-drop. Think about that. That's just a 2-drop. So you would need a card combination just to make Brandon 0. So unless, I guess, let's say you're dealing with Kyler Curry and he plays Pudding, or just pick any other deck that plays a 1-drop searcher, red decks, Nami, yada yada. Unless they got their 1-drop on the board and you can punish that 1-drop over and over again, it's like, yo, it is what it is. You're not really going to be seeing his leader ability like that. The -1 you can see consistently, but it's not impactful enough. That's the other problem. Just because you can see a -1 consistently, sadly, it's just not impactful enough for a mono black deck. The 1000 power, you don't see consistent enough. And let's throw another leader's name out there, Red Purple Kid, right? Even though that is a Don, you could probably say it's a little bit not fair. That is a Don negative, and has a life threshold that it needs to meet. But the point is, it can just plainly become 7K, right? With no extra bonus here is what I'm trying to articulate. With no extra bonus here, you see how it's not rewarding. So far, it's just not rewarding enough to just be swinging for 7, and that's it. It just isn't. So, Smoker I'm sorry, it's just not rewarding enough to swing for 7, just plainly. If maybe he was a leader that did, I would say maybe -2, then sure, because then you can kind of hit searchers across the board. I think it's kind of a good thing to, like, quote unquote punish search cards, right? Oh, you want to play a character search and not an event search? Let me make that searcher 0 and start swinging on you. We know people are gonna play search cards, so it kind of works if you think about it. I think that's how it kind of should be. Outside of that, even if let's say there's a blocker, like a 1-drop chopper blocker, and sure, you could punish it, but then they can just take it off the board real quick. You was gonna swing anyway with a 7K, right? So he punishes searchers. That's just how I feel. I don't think they do that in this game, but if they let's say, eroded him to just do -2, I think that would work. I think it'll make the leader ability way more accessible, way more consistent, and the leader ability would then be able to better complement a black deck. To have access to consistent -2, I think it would better complement a black deck. Because that's another thing. A lot of times these leaders don't complement their decks, and vice versa. The decks can't really complement the leader if you're trying to make the deck as effective as possible. Imagine making a black deck that tries to allow Smoker to be very consistent in his leader ability. You have to add a lot of negative cards, and then it's like, okay, so where's the benefit of the KO cards, so on and so forth. And you already know that Mono Black had the issue with resources because they relied on Kobe and Akaino, which will cause them to lose a card from their hand. Still, can kind of change that board presence, yes, but it was kind of tough. I got to play defense, and I got to chuck a card just to take something off the board. But then I also have to have a card to make sure that I lower your cost enough to make this card more effective. So ultimately, you looking at losing like 2 to 3 cards just for a certain play. And then the counterattack is real. I don't know much they can do for Smoker. I don't know what they can do in the future for Smoker to make his leader ability more accessible. And then I don't know how effective it is to just tunnel vision on a low drop. Because at the end of the day, especially in like Brano, the way the Sakazuki deck is flowing, you don't even want to leave Brando on the board. Work with me here. You don't even want to leave that on the board. You want to leave the 1-drops on the board. That's how the strategy was back in the day. And then in order to try to counter or entice you to help get rid of the searcher, they would just Don X attack. They would just use their searcher, their 1-drop searcher, to start counterattacking you. And then you had to make the decision to leave it on the board or not. And 90% of the times, it was better to just leave it on the board so that way you can keep swinging for 7K. But I don't know. It's seeming like the leader ability just isn't strong enough to compete with the modern state of One Piece. It doesn't seem like you're getting rewarded enough. And it's very inconsistent at that. So it's not even that consistent to really benefit off of the leader ability or to just gain. Because you have complete access to the -1. It's a 2-part effect. That's where I'm just like jumbled here. So it's a 2-part effect. So the accessibility for the first half of the effect is hyper accessible. But the second part is a so-so accessible. It's so-so. And then the impact overall is just not it. It's just not it at the moment. It would be fun if they start coming out with Smoker cards, Smoker dedicated cards, because he got his little crew and stuff like that. But I think Tashigi's the only one that people know about. I don't know. But hopefully they can just let this guy be somewhat relevant again. I like Smoker. He was one of my first favorite characters in One Piece. Yeah. But it is what it is. Kind of not worth playing.